Good afternoon. Welcome to the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust meeting on August 27th, 2024. I'll now call the meeting to order. Item 2 on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the July 30th, 2024 trust meeting. We can take a motion. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And the item passes. Item 3 is the ratification of claims. We can take a motion on that one as well. That item passes as well. Brings us to item 4 on the agenda. Items for individual consideration. Item A is an economic development agreement for the Alley's End Affordable Housing Development Project. Mr. Sudel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this project, as a reminder, it's over on 4th and Gaylord. It's 214 units of affordable housing. We had already approved the allocation, so this is the actual economic development agreement, which includes the loan agreements, et cetera. It's $2 million of GOLT funds, the Affordable Housing Fund. So with this $2 million, that puts us at $9.9 million of our $10 million allocation from the 2017 bond issue has now been allocated. So this is structured again as a forgivable loan. Trying to think if I've missed any other, it's tied to the LIHTC funding requirements, and other than that, most of the things are pretty standard in this, but there's a few nuances in there related to their financing structure, and but other than that, it's pretty much the deferred, payments as long as they maintain their affordability period and requirements. And if you have any other questions, we've got the developer here to answer questions, but they've already presented on this previously, and be happy to answer anything you have after that.
Any questions?
I don't think so.
Comments? It's been so long, I forget the details of it, but I remember I liked it before, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. We can take a motion on the item. We have a motion and a second. The item passes. Brings us to item 4B on the agenda. This is a joint resolution approving an allocation of $10,775,000 from the Classen Corridor Revitalization Project Plan in support of the 8th, 9th Hudson Walker Multifamily Project.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just really quickly, so this project is actually our first project we're bringing forward from the new Classen Corridor TIF. Richard McCown and Cooper Scott and Kara with her newborn is actually here. They're going to give us a presentation on the project. So this did go to the TIF Review Committee and was recommended for approval. Just very quickly, 300 plus residential units in Midtown with other amenities we'll describe. This is a pay-in, pay-out TIF. So the way it would be structured would be for the first 5 years, get 100% of the increment back. Year 6, that would reduce to 85%. And then years 7 through 15, reduce to 75%. And I will say this is something that, is consistent, having to do some heavier incentives on the front end on these apartment projects right now, just where costs and things are, and they're going to go through some of the things. This does have some unusual upfront utility relocations and some other things they're going to talk about. But, we've done our normal analysis on this and really does meet the need of needing some help on it. So with that, I'll turn it over to Richard and his team, and then he'll present and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. This first slide just tells you a little bit about us. My name's Richard McCowan. My business partner, Cooper Scott, and Kara Llewellyn. We are really committed to urban placemaking, and this property is an extraordinary opportunity for Oklahoma City, and it's one of those transformative locations that allows something special to happen here. Let's go ahead and go on to the next slide just so we can get through this as quick as we can. The projects up here are some of our more newsworthy properties we've built in the past. Level Urban Apartments is very similar to the property we're going to be showing you today. Level sits between 3rd and 2nd Street in Deep Deuce between Walnut and Oklahoma Avenue. It occupies that full city block. It's a 4-story building with a parking garage inside of it. And then across the street to the west, we have our Mosaic building, very different type of building. It's got all of its parking underneath, has a total of 6 stories, but only 5 stories above ground. Then the Bower was a multifamily building we originally built as a for sale property, and then after 18 months of struggling with that, we converted it to a really good apartment community that's now in our inventory. And this last one is a 5-story building in Bricktown that we remodeled and turned it into a dynamic office building. So these are some properties that have given us the experience and the confidence to really understand the potential of this new property at 8th and 9th. So located in the blue kind of reverse Oklahoma shape in the center of that aerial photo is our site. We kind of wrap around Jimmy's Egg and Modern Banh Mi. We're kind of catty corner across from the Barrios restaurant, and you can see all the neat restaurants and amenities that are around us within walking distance, as well as, you know, we're incredibly well located next to the St. Anthony's Medical Center, and also all the Health Science Center isn't very far away. It's just across the highway. So we're very close to the heart of downtown. We think this is a great location for, you know, walkability and for being able to, you know, put your car in storage in our building and just take public transportation and ride your bicycle and walk everywhere you want to go. Let's go on to the next slide. This shows you a little bit about the property. 303 apartments. In the northeast corner, we have some live-work units that are located there. And those are really intended to mirror the other retail activities across the street on Hudson. And then we've got our 2-story just to the south of that in blue. That's our 2-story amenity space. A lot of neat opportunities there for community gathering, people to, you know, develop long-term friendships and find their community in the heart of Oklahoma City. And then, of course, we've got 2 garden and one with the swimming pool in the center of the building. These become really neat oasis-like experiences. And we're also going to be adding, I believe the number's 44 additional on-street parking spaces that are all part of this. I think the next slide, I'm going to turn it over to Cooper and let him walk you through the numbers just a bit.
Thanks, Richard. So with our experience managing assets in downtown Oklahoma City for the past 12 years, we've kind of found a good unit mix balance that we like to strike. And the site, after we worked through the design, we were able to achieve that. So we've got kind of roughly like a 65-35 mix of 1-bed and 2-bed. We have a new product for us in the 13 550 square foot units for studios. And they've been doing very well downtown. We think we can work in that affordability by design and that component. We've got 196 1-beds, 91 2-beds, and then 3 live-work units, just as Richard mentioned, for a total of 303 units. They're about an average of 800 square feet, and we're at $2.15 a foot for our market rate rent. And then on the next slide, just a high-level overview of where we sit with the project. Obviously, we're working through the TIF request process right now. We'll continue working on the alley closure, which should wrap up in the middle of next year. Our construction drawings would kind of time out around the same time. And then we would work on closing our HUD loan and starting construction in July. And then hope to complete the building by October of 2027. And then we would project to finish lease up by this time in 2028. And then on the next slide, I'll turn it back over to Richard.
This shows you a bit about what the building will look like. And what's important here is something that we learned with our very first building is the way that these buildings touch the ground and have the apartments that are on the ground floor have the walkout condition that really creates a tremendous urban walkability. You know, we're used to seeing ideas around retail space. We've managed a lot of retail space in our previous downtown properties, and it's a real struggle for a small retailer to step into those spaces and take on just the obligation and to try and build a retail business. And what we found is the success of those residential units that come down and touch the ground floor, those become our most popular apartments, especially with our pet owners. With anyone living there, we usually have a 1 year longer tenure with them staying with us. That ability to just come and go, use your back door as a second front door, meet friends. But what it really does is it creates this vibrancy on the street, and it keeps the street busy all the time from 7 a.m. until 11 p.m. And it ends up creating even more urban activity than a retail space. With these retail spaces, we've scaled them down. We've made them really, really small, and you can live in them. You know, coming from the artist background, there's certainly that kind of possibility that if you wanted to make this, you know, artist studio or artist loft on the ground, it can work in that respect as well. But they're really open to just about anything other than food. And then you can see our double height amenity space on the lower left portion of this photo. Color, wayfinding, these things are really exciting to be able to use the building as a beacon and an orientation space here in the heart of Midtown. The next slide, this gets to the heart of things. So we originally put this tract of land under contract back in 2015, and it was just too much, too big, and it didn't work at the time. When we got an opportunity to do it again, minus the Jimmy's Egg building that's not included in the pink square, it all of a sudden was the right size this time at around this 300 unit number. And we knew we had to take the power lines and put them underground. We figured we'd have to relocate a sanitary sewer line. But what we didn't know is that Cox Communications and AT&T both have major fiber optic spines running through this alleyway. When we were out on site with one of the engineers, he said, you know, you could have gone 7 blocks to the south, or you could have gone 7 blocks to the north, and you wouldn't have run into anything like what's here. And then a week later, we had that same conversation with AT&T. And it's just sort of been earth-shaking for us. All the while, construction costs has continued to rise. Interest rates don't seem to be coming down no matter how much we all want them to. And the overall project is just at a spot where here we are today. And I'm gonna let Cooper walk you through the TIF numbers.
Sure. So this just gives a high-level overview of what the project costs are and what our sources and uses are. So starting on the left-hand side of the screen, we would project our loan proceeds to be around the $56 million mark. We are projecting a little bit of land equity that we hope to be able to contribute to the overall number of $900,000. And then the balance left would be the equity contribution from the investors to give us a total sources of $81.4 million. Further below that, we go to break down the costs in the way of land, what the construction hard cost is, what our soft costs are. We break out the development fee, then the contractor fee, some of our carry cost, and then finish it with the construction contingency for the project. And then on the right-hand side, we highlight just kind of how tight the project is with no TIF assistance, showing the 10-year cash-on-cash return at around 4.5 and the 15-year around 5.5. And again, those are the averages, so you can imagine where they start year 1 and 2 is pretty rough. And of course, we all know we can kind of get that in a savings account, kind of risk-free right now. And then with the TIF assistance, we project that we'd get a 10-year cash-on-cash return up to 7.5, with a 15-year at 8.5, and that would be enough to move that investor capital off the sidelines and get them interested in this project. So yeah, just real briefly, just to reiterate what the TIF request is 100% for the first 5 years of the ad valorem increment that's generated by the project, then stepping down to 85% year 6, and then down to 75% for the following balance of the years. And then on the next slide, just thank you for giving us this opportunity. The next slide has some bio information you can read later at your convenience. And if you have any questions or comments, we'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions? Kenny, you want to tell us a little bit about the status of that TIF and where we're at on it?
Yeah, so that TIF has been created, and if you'll recall, we had 4 different increment areas. One that kind of covered really, kind of north of 23rd Street. One that kind of came down, that covered the Gold Dome. One that came down kind of into Midtown, and one that kind of captured kind of some of the southern part of the areas over west on 10th Street. So this is obviously the first one of any of those, and this is really in that Midtown area. So these sections have been removed from TIF 2, and then they've been put in to the new class in TIF, but we have not activated it yet. So this would provide assuming it goes through here, and if council approves, would provide the allocation. We still would be coordinating with Richard and any other developers that are working in the area about when's the appropriate time to actually activate the TIF, which we would have to bring back an item to City Council to activate it. So it's been fully created. The project plan's fully created. We just have to activate it, but we still are. This is the first project, and there's others that are talking to us about it. So we're vetting projects right now and seeing what may move forward, what else may move forward. So really, they had a little bit of a longer timeline, I think, because of some of these big utility relocations and grade things. There could be other folks that come forward that move a little faster, and we'll just have to see how that plays out in terms of how fast we activate. I'm also excited. One last thing I would say, while we have to give some help up front, and it's very warranted, I think those utility costs, just the AT&T stuff was what, over $2 million or something, those relocations?
Just the AT&T and Cox piece comes in at like 2.7.
Yeah.
And there are other extraordinary things that we're going to have to do, putting the OG&E lines underground off-site half a block that, just anytime you're building downtown, there's just this amazing amount of unexpected stuff that is just moving around on us. And we're having to do detention. This is our first property downtown that's had detention required. And one thing that we forgot to mention, in part because it's just a guess. We don't know what the property taxes will be assessed at, but our expectation based on the properties we've been managing for the last 14 years is that this building, once it goes after the first 5 years and starts contributing back that 15% and then 25%, and then from year 15 on, it contributes 100% back into the increment. It's more than $10 million it contributes back into the TIF fund in our estimates.
You read my mind. That was going to be where I was going was, I think I'm excited that this type of project would put some significant dollars over time back into the TIF that we could use for other projects or public projects or things like that. So,
Any other questions or comments? All right. If we're ready, we can take a motion. All right, we have a motion and a second. And the item passes. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Item 5 on the agenda is the General Manager's Report. Ms. McSpadden.
Hello, Joanna McSpadden, Finance. I don't have any comments about the General Manager's Report specifically, but I wanted to publicly tell you all, I'm not sure if I think we've talked about it a little bit, but the First National Garage, we had an obligation in the GOLT fund to take out that loan. I had been holding about $13 million in that fund, and that obligation has been released, that note has been paid off, and so we've kind of freed up that funding now. I will say, we turned right around and used a lot of it for the mega site. So it didn't free up all of that cash for us because we were able to do that mega site because of that availability of funds. But I just wanted to publicly let you guys know that that had officially been paid off, so. But happy to answer questions about the report, too.
And just to piggyback it also gives us some room in our regular, job incentives,
Yeah.
because as we're heading towards, kind of the next bond vote and things, that was getting tighter and tighter, that amount of money. So it's something we're having to be selective with, what projects we bring forward. So this gives us some more cushion.
Gives us a
on it.
little breathing room for those, yeah, for the next year or so.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Any comments from staff? No?
Can I introduce you to my new team member?
Please.
This is Erin Kozakowicz.
Hi.
So we are now a team of 3. I stole her from the airport department, but we're very excited to have an extra set of hands on the team, so. happy
We're
to
not
have-
going to rename the team, though, are we? I mean.
No.
Okay. I know we. Right. And we're an international team. Excellent. Well, thank you. Any comments from trustees? Any citizens signed up to be heard? No? All right. With that, we're adjourned. Thank you.